Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Buhaybasket podcast. And I hope you guys are all safe and healthy. And as you can see, I'm joined tonight again by coaches Lee and Coach JM, and of course, Agent PJ.
Hey, Ans.
How are
Hello.
you guys
Hi.
doing?
Thank you for having us back. So I guess
yeah.
All good. All good.
we're okay during our first episode.
Yeah, it's really good. Got some good reviews for the first episode. So tonight we're going to be shifting from the NBA, and we're going to be talking about the PBA. For you gentlemen are aware that the PBA just celebrated its 45th anniversary, April 9th. So the league started in 1975. It's the first of its kind in Asia. Can you guys talk about your first memory of the PBA?
So when they opened, I think I was what, 2 years old. No, but the first memory was that was the time of TV with actual dials, no?
Dial
Channels,
talaga.
no? And
Yes.
I would remember, my dad being a huge sports fan, no, a big basketball fan. No? It was like an event. I think Crispa Toyota, no, was my first memory. At least the hazy memory as a small kid, no. But my memory from all the PBA games, at least in those years, jam-packed arena. Araneta would always be full. So I mean, it seems very different, no? From when I try to, let's say, watch a PBA game today. Iba, I think more than the at least on screen kasi kita mo puno no. I think the vibe, no. I think the electricity, no. I mean, imagine we didn't have HD TV then. These are mas static yan. Sometimes you had to kind of hold on the knob para lumina. Di ba? Yung ano yung tawag dun sa may knob
AV. Tsaka yung sa
yung
antenna.
antenna. Huwag kang gagalaw muna dyan kasi wala reception. The very palpable, no, yung the electricity. That's what I remember. It's always frenzied game. I don't even remember the scores but it was always like people cheering loudly, wildly, and it's as if it was para siyang last 5-10 seconds of a tied game. Ganun yung feel.
Similar to what Lee said, it was always about for us growing up, it was always about the Crispa Toyota rivalry. I remember watching a couple of games live with my dad. I don't know if PJ was old enough to come with us then. Iba talaga. Number one, it was so different. The seats were rattan. Yung rattan seats lang. Yung parang pang birthday party.
Wow.
Tapos, if you will notice, inside...
Hindi pa monoblock,
Where was this?
Araneta.
Wow, Araneta.
It was, probably you won't believe this. It was very hazy inside because they allowed smoking.
Pwede mag-yossi sa loob.
Pwede mag-yossi.
So,
it was really different. Tapos, well, my dad being an avid Crispa fan, so by default, Crispa na rin kami.
Crispa, yeah.
Talagang makikita mo yung, it's really about the rivalry. Not discounting the fact that the other teams were also competitive that time. Pero, siguro yun It's really about Crispa Toyota I don't know if, maybe it was even bigger than the Ateneo Lasal that we have right now.
Wow.
Back then.
Was it violent
and
it
was violent. The fans were really getting into it, and it was such an event. Kumbaga talaga pag sinabi ni Papa na manonood tayo ng PBA, iba yung feeling talaga. Parang you're so excited, you're really psyched and hyped to go to the games.
My earliest memory of the PBA was the mid-80s. So for me, I'd consider it the peak of the PBA because this was when pretty much a new face of the league. There were players like Gidabe and Ramon Fernandez. They were talagang leading the pack. And syempre, no one will forget about Robert Jaworski, the living legend. So from that time, like what Jay mentioned, in our home, talagang day in, day out basketball. So since automatic na Crispa fans kami, my era, since Crispa, when the franchise was when they were
Disbanded.
out, it became Shell. When they disbanded, it became Shell. So I remember Bogs Adornado moving to Shell. So automatic for me, my first basketball idol was Bogs Adornado. Even at that time, it was his last 2 years. But I could remember that guy had the most number of shot fakes, but he was so effective. So, and then from that time, when I was more into the game, this was when I really fell in love. This was when Jolas came, Alvin Patrimonio, Benji Paras,
The
Jerry
Pure Foods,
Pineda, Johnny Magsoanok, Johnny A, Glenn Capascio. Actually, latter part pa nga si Johnny A.
Yeah, medyo
so
yeah.
My guy before, or actually counterpart ni Magic Johnson when I was rooting for the Lakers back in the PBA was Joe Lastimosa. I loved him so much, to the point na kahit libre ka sa basketball court, you would go with the helicopter move kasi yan ang go-to niya eh. And
that's number 6.
Number 6. Everybody know na pag Jolas yan, grabe yung hita niyan. So even if wala kang hita, tataas mo pa rin yung shorts mo when you're shooting your free throw. So for me, at that time, literally, sexy legs, exactly. Yun yung term nun.
Yeah.
At that time, since walang cable, walang internet, definitely, we were talagang really glued to our TV sets. To Lee's point, deroskas pa nga. Talagang, literally, as in any game, kahit elimination round, whether it's in Araneta, Ultra, and then later on sa Cuneta, we were watching all the games. Parang how you would be with the NBA in the 90s. So talagang, for me, I really fell in love with basketball starting with the PBA. Kasi close to close to home.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And syempre, I'm sure we're gonna touch on later na 45 years, a lot has changed. The world has changed. And syempre, for me, in terms of level of basketball, the league is still probably close to number 1 in Asia. It's just syempre the connection with the fans, which I'm sure we're gonna touch on later, is the one that's been different.
Yeah, ako rin naman, as you mentioned, Johnny A, medyo mid-90s.
Mid-90s.
Yeah, so that's when I started watching the PBA. Yun, idol ko si Johnny A, Jolas,
Flying A,
Jet, syempre.
Syempre.
Tapos, yun nga, parang, kasi ako, I came to Manila from LA not expecting a league here, di ba? So, pagdating ko dito, din lang ako ng dad ko sa game, wild! Iba yung atmosphere. Di ba?
Iba.
This was 90s na, latter part of the 90s.
Yeah, so parang iba pa rin. So doon ako numulat sa PBA. Parang grabe, iba rin pala yung energy ng Pinoy fans. Let's talk about what happened, after the 80s. Maybe take us through what happened in the 90s.
Ako, number 1, the parity of the league. I don't know if anyone remembers. Before there was a PBA rule that the top centers couldn't play in one team. So I think it was Fernandez, maybe Gidaben, Victorino, I think.
Manivi.
Maybe I think even Yoyo Villamin during his talagang
the Bicolano Superman.
They were not allowed to team up together to ensure parity in the league. So given that in the mid 80s onwards, nawala na yung Crispa Toyota rivalry because both teams were disbanded. But still, the people were still packing the gyms, the arenas. Mainly, I think because number 1, because of the parity of the league, there was Great Taste, there was Tanduay, there was Gilby's Gin, there was mga Presto. Ang dami. It was still very competitive. But and of course, back then, even during the early 90s, I'm sure the others will touch on this also. No? Wala, yun lang talaga eh. It was just a PBA. There was no other outlet. There was no internet. There was no nothing. You can get a couple of NBA games on a delayed basis. The cable was starting, I think Sky Cable back then, mga early 90s, nagsimula na. But they weren't showing daily NBA games still. So it was still the PBA. The parity of the league was still there. The UAAP back then was just another college league.
Yeah.
So, bago tayo tumungo towards early 2000s, I think during the 90s, it still had its peak. The PBA still had its peak.
I think that was the time that the league became too corporate. Because 1975 when it's launched, it was a corporate backed league anyway. No? I mean, you had UTEX, you had Eco, Tanduay, all these mga.
Yeah.
It was never naman using the NBA model, diba? So home and away or community based basketball. But you never felt it before. No, you never felt it before, even if these are all corporate entities behind the teams. But I think maybe because the PBA business was really booming already at the time, I think the knee-jerk reaction maybe of team owners was let's make this an arms race, diba? Kasi let's ride the wave, diba? So what did people start doing? No, they started bringing in Fil-Ams, no. Now
this is
nothing against
mid-90s?
mid-90s.
Late 90s, late 90s.
So I think this was a big turning point, and I think the league dropped the ball here because I'm not saying that the entry of Fil-Ams is bad per se.
Not at all, yeah.
Because in any product naman, diba? As long as you improve it, then it will be sustained, diba? Pero I think what happened here lang was maybe it was too sudden, diba? Nasamahan pa ng mga scandals yun no? Yung mga papers, ganyan. But I think it was too abrupt a transition. I think that yung from the like sila Jay and PJ were saying before, no, PBA was an event, no? It was parang so close to home, no? And then all of a sudden you have a team that you hardly know who the players are. And ibang kultura Parang sinalpak mo kaagad dun yung end one mixtape dun sa gitna. And I think that kinda and then yun na nga, what to JM's point, the parity started to suffer, no?
So who were the teams that rose above the rest? If you're saying the parity was lost, who were the teams that medyo umangat nung time na yan?
Tanduay, kasi
sila Sani Alvarado.
Sani Alvarado, ang lakas
Ang lakas talaga nila. Biro mo straight from the PBL. They just came into the league coming from the PBL.
Kasi may Eric Menka naman na legit superstar.
Yeah.
May Sani Alvarado ka
pero tsaka to Lee's point, with the sudden influx of Fil-Ams, parang all in I remember all in 1999 there were like at least 12 Fil-Ams.
Segovia,
and then
Segovia.
The Von Harp, and then even the others, the ones who stayed. Problem was, and we touched on this before, there was really no connection with the fans in those guys. Unlike
so parang
the ones who
walang loyalty to these guys.
Walang loyalty. And like before,
hindi mo nakita sa
if you
UAP,
have a guy, for the guy, for example, for Rich Alvarez, became number one pick. At I remember, batch nila James Yap. When he joined the league, he was able to bring in a new set of audience na mga Ateneans, alumni.
Shell,
and
diba?
if you remember, Shell number one pick. And if you remember, back in the 80s and the 90s, a big part of the audience for the PBA were the Class A, B, and Upper C, right? And then the other 60% would be the masses. Kasi ako, I remember exactly, pag Hinebra game, pag natatalo Hinebra, may mga nagbabato ng piso.
Meron na piso na yan. Oo.
Iba yung may barangay talaga.
Iba Hinebra. We're gonna have to talk about Hinebra.
So even for a time, actually, in the late 90s, nawala rin yung part ng Hinebra na yan because they lost Robert Jaworski. So, nawala yung connection ng mga tao kay Jaworski sa Hinebra dahil wala si Jaworski. So, all those things together, plus again, syempre, with what JM mentioned, with cable and internet being available, people had other options aside from the PBA.
Okay, so let's go back to that again. To Lee's point, hindi naman yun yung that wasn't the the culprit per se. The Fil-Ams weren't at fault. What do you think the PBA could have done to avoid, the lack of loyalty, the lack of, the homegrown identity? Is there anything that the PBA could have done to avoid that?
Well, siguro ako number one kasi the Fil-Ams that came were actually Fil-Shams eh. So that in itself,
Yun ang problema doon. Started out that way.
The PBA took a hit eh, na parang, ba't nga pinayagan sila, di ba? So, I'm sure it had a negative impact to the fans. So that's one. And siguro, so given that circumstance, nangyari na siya, maybe what the PBA could have done. So we're talking about mga early 2000s.
Yeah.
Well, number one kasi, all the superstars of the 70s, wala na eh. They were all retired na.
Yeah.
So I think the last was Senator Jaworski, diba? Pero kasi 80s, nandiyan pa sila Cesar Gidabin Fernandez, maybe until the early 90s. So when they were all retired, kumbaga, yung loyalty ng ibang fans to these players, maybe, sumama dun sa loyalty nila sa PBA. But then again, dumating naman yung mga Pure Foods boys. Di ba? So, nandyan sila Captain Lionheart, sila Jolas.
Yeah.
And they had they had a stretch talaga until maybe early 2000s wherein they were really dominating. So ako personally, I think up to that time it was still okay. I mean, the Fil-Shams really kind of made a dent negatively to the league, but still it was still manageable during that time. I mean, compared to how it is now. I mean, it saddens me when I watch and people don't watch live anymore. So I think until the 2000s, before we tackle the current situation, I think it was still okay. It wasn't better than the 80s or early 90s, but it was still manageable.
Yeah, it was still very fun to watch. Let's acknowledge Coach Boogie. Thank you for joining us.
Hello. Di ba may batch sila, JM, na yung RP team dati, Philippine team, sila yan, Alvin, Benji, Ronnie, they entered PBA halos sabay-sabay halos. So yung following nila from the amateur ranks, nadala nila to the PBA. So naghiwa-hiwalay sila sa PBA pero lahat ng mga sikat na amateurs noon, so parang nabit-bit nila sa PBA yung kasi parang sila na yung next.
Okay pa. Sila yung sumunod na
yung mga shell days nila Benji. Yes, shell days nila Benji, sila Jolly, sila Ronnie. So magkakasabayan halos sila Ravenna. Tapos yun din. Yung Fil-Shams, I think malaking factor kung bakit din medyo hindi na makarelate yung mga tao sa mga PBA players, no. Ngayon, I think it's a mix already. Meron din like yung wag na tayo lumayo si CJ Perez sa local talent. Mukha siyang Fil-Am pero local talent siya pero may following na rin pati si Robert Bolick. So yung mga fans ng Beda meron pa rin, no? So yung stigma na nangyari doon sa Fil-Shams. Well, I think open na naman yung PBA ngayon. Well, the fans na acknowledging Fil-Ams, the legit ones.
It's good that you made that distinction. Kasi I remember towards maybe the early 2000s, Fast and the Furious, sila Jimmy Alapag, when those guys came in, medyo bumalik na yung amor ng fans sa kanila. Medyo
correct.
we got behind them. What do you think happened there? How is it different from the earlier Fil-Ams?
One thing I'm gonna mention, since good point, Enzo. Kasi if you remember, in the early 2000s, we had Fil-Ams, and when we were able to bring in new monikers for the players. So parang nagkaroon na second wave ng PBA.
Yeah, I remember
diba,
that. Yeah.
Major Pain, and then Mighty Mouse, diba? And then so parang in the mid 2000s, parang okay na eh. And then for me, a big part, and no one has touched on it. There were also discussions na mga expansion teams they were, there was a lot of discussion about game fixing. So siguro credibility. I mean, it's a touchy subject, but there were times that people, somehow they were. Yeah, the league lost its credibility, and basketball for Filipinos, it's such a big deal. Now you can't take it lightly when you hear that there are talks about game fixing. People are really gonna they're gonna lose their passion, since for us Filipinos nga, they keep on saying na but basketball yung favorite ng sport. But you guys are not told, but because we're so passionate about it. Like I say, it's always going to be our number one sport.
Yep, absolutely.
Ang analogy ko dyan palagi, Enzo, guys, parang ang relationship ng Filipino basketball fan, sabi nga ni PJ Passionate, parang relationship. Parang, di ba, parang pag hindi maganda yung nangyayari, magtatampo ka. Halimbawa, medyo, di ba, parang love-hate relationship.
Pero mahal mo pa rin.
Nandyan palagi. Mahal mo pa rin. Nandyan palagi.
Pero
mahal mo pa rin.
May tampo.
Pero may tampo.
Nandyan palagi. Pero kami ng asawa ko, okay kami ngayon.
Yeah.
Kahit naka-ECQ na tayo ng man. Siguro din, balik tayo dun sa Fil-Shams.
Go ahead.
Kasi rule ng PBA yun sa totoo lang. Pero ang bottom line dun, nandaya sila. Yung Fil-Shams. Hindi na natin papangalanan kung sino yung mga yun.
Napangalanan na namin kanina.
Napangalanan na namin kanina.
Ang ganun ba?
Isa lang naman.
Yun. Yung rule ng PBA. So, sana din, for example, ako gusto ko sanang maglaro sana sa PBA as a local. Si Alice Compton. So,
Mas,
it's a pure American, born here in the Philippines, pero
mas Pinoy siya sa...
Talagang mas Pinoy siya sa mga iba pang Pinoy, di ba?
Yeah.
Hindi na nga Fil-Ams Nag-aral siya mag-Tagalog, inaral niya yung kultura, in-embrace niya talaga yung Filipino as a whole and also the culture. No? So, siguro din baka kailangan din natin i-tweak yung rules sa PBA kung gusto natin. Kaya lang, it goes back naman dun sa following na sinasabi ni JM kanina na paano na yung mga superstars ngayon na high school, college superstars na sinusundan ng tao hanggang umabot ng pros. So parang may disconnect dun sa, parang gusto natin i-embrace yung Fil-Ams or yung Filipino-Americans na legit na gusto talaga maglaro sa PBA, not just for the money, and also they want to be in the PBA and also to embrace the culture.
So you're admitting na mas magagaling talaga Fil-Ams sa Pinoy?
Hindi. Halo. Depende.
Depende
naman. Tsaka for me, at the end of the day, good talent is always good for any league. So regardless whether, diba? For me, and diba? Sa akin, there are no issues with Fil-Ams. Actually, there's a rule nga that you can only field in 5 Fil-Ams per team. And for me, that's, if you're part Filipino, you could play for the league regardless. But there shouldn't really be a cap on how many Fil-Ams should be in a team.
Do you think that dapat baguhin natin yung rule, Page?
Oh, well, baguhin nila.
You can start shaking things up kasi as we speak, I think, I mean, there are good games. There are, well-attended games. Pero generally, for the past how many years, we've seen a decline in gate attendance. I'm not really sure about viewership.
Can't deny that.
So going to what PJ said, what if, kunwari, you open the PBA. You open the PBA to any talent. I mean, it's really,
so, Asian, European, kahit sino.
Kumbaga, I mean, well, number one, since the pay here, I don't know, I'm not really sure, pero compared to the other leagues, like the Chinese Basketball Association, Japanese, and the European leagues, maybe it's inferior compared to those leagues. So, baka hindi rin natin makuha lahat ng the best talents out there. Pero what if you just open the league to anyone who wants to play? I mean, it's a challenge to local players. I'm sure mawawalan ng trabaho yung ibang Pinoy.
Yun, what if people say that?
Yun ang problema natin doon, which we don't want to happen. But I mean, if you want to see genuine talent, it's medyo radical. It's a radical suggestion.
Yeah.
It's a big move. Pero I'm just throwing it out there because for the past 45 years, it's basically been the same. 3 conferences, isang all-Filipino, isang reinforced, isang another conference with an import who's taller. It's the same for the past 45 years.
Oh, so let's touch on that. The 3 conference setup. A lot of people are saying that a huge fix, that one big move that the PBA could make just to make a lot of things better is just to reduce it to 2 conferences, make the conferences longer. Do you think that would make a difference, Coach Lee?
Yeah, I do. If you think about it, I don't think it's a point of contention. The most popular conference is always the All-Filipino, the Philippine Cup.
Yeah.
And I think that's also what I wanted to say. You know, in a way, bridging yung kanina mga pinag-uusapan, no, Fil-Ams and everything. I think for the league itself, no, it's a question of identity. No, I think the PBA lost the P there, no, yung Philippine part, because I think siguro tayo na rin, no, we were mistaken to think na parang it's really the best league, but actually, like Jay was saying, if you compare it to the CBA, wala no, but I think what the fans, no, the market was really looking for was that home
environment,
natural, and when that thing happened in the 90s, early 2000, we dropped the ball, may mga shams. At the same time, dumating sila. We were expecting Jordan-esque types, di ba? Total, kumuha na rin kayo ng mga kusino-sino.
Humugot.
Important eh.
Pero tinalo pa rin ni Benji eh.
Tinalo ng MVP si Benji.
MVP si Benji. Parang that wasn't the formula. Parang that wasn't the formula pala. Di ba? And so parang, I think yun yung if I were in the league, no, I would go back to the identity na this is
go back to the roots.
Home family league, no? And kaya ako, I would emphasize really the Philippine Cup. Pag minsan magkasunod pa after one conference na may import,
weeks lang.
Dalawang import
yung prestige of winning a championship nawawala. Bawi na lang tayo next conference, ilang buwan lang naman yung tayo.
Ayun, tulad ng sinabi ni Coach Boogie, parang relationship, pero hindi siya nagpapamiss eh. Kumbaga, kasama mo na pala.
I think it's good. An all-Filipino conference, maybe, kasi currently, the setup is with 12 teams. I think it's single round robin. So 11 elimination games, then I think the bottom 2 teams are eliminated, then the playoffs. So with 2 conferences, what if you make it longer? So double round robin. So that's 22 games. So it replaces 1 conference kaagad. Then maybe the playoffs make it longer. Kasi usually dito best of 3 lang yung umpisa, best of 5, then best of 7.
Right.
What if you make all the matchups best of 7 affair? So that can be an adjustment. Plus, I think yung import laden conference is still okay in the sense that it brings parity to the league kahit paano. So the cellar dwellers during the All-Filipino Conference, if they really get a great import, can really compete in the import-laden conferences. So there's still beauty behind it.
Yeah, and then if the conference is longer, there's more possibility of people buying into a team more.
To add to that, I would want to have lesser game dates. So right now, kasi as it is, they would have at least 5 game days, and that would be a double header. So it's MWF, and then sometimes
may provincial Saturday
out of town na Saturday and Sunday. So it's, for me, I just find it too many.
Overkill.
And plus, my problem with the first game, it's at 4:15, man, and in the afternoon. People are on the road.
Yeah.
Who's gonna watch that? Honestly. Yeah.
So
and the sad reality is when I go to games at around 4:30, man, and if it's at Araneta, it's definitely less than 1,000 people in venue. So that for me, that's a big problem. I would have 3 play dates. So, for example, TTH and Sunday, right? Double header pa rin, later schedule. So,
Make it like
first
a
game
6
could start
p.m.
at 5:30.
Yeah.
5:30. Kasi problema nila, alam mo naman ang time slot sa TV diba?
Yeah.
Issue yan diba? May block time lang sila. So, maybe 5:30 and then the second game would start around 7:45. At least meron silang window.
Same as before, diba, Peach? 5:15 before.
Before 5:15.
5:15, 5:30.
And that was just right for students Kasi as soon as you get home, tip off na yung first game And then, this is something late, I know this has been a request for all the avid PBA fans, is to have more teams for the league to be deeper. Right? If you have at least 15 PBA teams, definitely there's room for more talent. And at the same time, I'm
16.
sure the teams would be more balanced. Because right now, I think Lee touched on it earlier. There are really only 4 teams gunning for the championship.
Absolutely, yeah.
All the time.
Okay, so
right?
we were also talking about the product itself. Obviously, the product is the game. The game hasn't changed. I mean, you could say that the game's even better now.
It's more scientific right now, definitely. The athleticism, ibang level, no, compared before. Pero, yung laro kasi, Enzo, before, well, di pa naman ako ganun katanda, no? Alam mo yung, in Tagalog, nakikipagbasagan ng mukha
Basagan
hindi naman
talaga.
yung dirty play, no?
Yeah.
Yung palitan ng mukha. Exciting.
Rudy Distrito.
Parang playing to win talaga. Playing to win. Everyone's playing to win. No? Talagang yung competitive
bakbahan talaga.
yung competitiveness ng game nandoon. Feeling ko mas nag-iingat yung players ngayon. I don't know. Kasi
too pretty.
Nakakausap ako ng mga veterans before, no? So sinasabi nila, ako dati pag matapilok kami, padyak-padyak lang, laro na ulit O re-tape lang, laro na ulit Ngayon kasi, pag ma-injure, uupo, precaution, check mo na, ganyan. Naalala nyo, classic example, Jawo. Diba? Yung nagkaroon siya ng cut, punta ng hospital, pina-stitch, just bumalik, naglaro ulit.
Bumalik, yeah.
Classic example. So, wala ka na makikita ganun ngayon no? So, yun lang. Siguro sana, hindi ko alam kung paano natin ibabalik yun. Dapat ba maglaro tayo, JM?
Siguro the teams are more careful kasi of course they're paying top dollar for these athletes investment so especially now more than ever, I mean, players are getting million peso contracts, so alagaan mo talaga.
We've become the league has been patterning ourselves too much na kasi masyado on the NBA. And I think what we're forgetting there is we will never get to that talent level So that's not the solution, no? It's really local flavor. That's why we can retain 3 conferences, but I would suggest the third conference would be an invitational. Invitational, not just within the region. I mean, you invite
other teams from other countries.
Gusto magkaroon ng
JBL.
Yeah, tsaka it works locally also kasi di ba, no one really cares about the PCCL, di ba? College, I mean, it's a good tune-up. But let's say the champion, you pull him up into the invitation, you have the top college team in the Philippines playing. You get even Australian team just for the history ng suntukan para medyo ganado yung mga nasa bleachers. Kuha ka ng isang mid-tier na Chinese team. Wag mo naman yung mga Shanghai Sharks.
Laban
I mean, put something like that. Kasi, again,
different flavor.
You wanna rally. Ang Pinoy kasi gusto yung mga,
dayo.
Kapit-bahay ko to So parang, right now, even if, like Boogie was saying, everything's more scientific, maarte na lahat, resistant bands, everything, that's fine, no? Pero, you want to bring out the raw, yun yung
emotions
ng tao
Kasi at magkakaroon kung may kalaban na gano'n.
Why does everyone love Calvin Abueva? Kasi he plays with that
Terence
passion.
Romeo, gano'n.
Terence,
Diba? Parang Terence.
Barangay level.
And also barangay level. Lahat tayo naglaro sa
that type of, they want to see that type of play. No? And, I mean, kayo, you be honest here, no? If you could choose between conflict of TV schedule, no? Kunwari, playoffs ng MPBL and then elimination round, let's say match-up versus middle tier PBA teams, no? Siguro mas baka ang main na pinapanood mo yung playoffs ng MPBL, tapos pag time out, saka ka pupunta ng PBA.
Yun nga.
No?
Yeah. I mean, well, let's
Kasi
touch
MPBL, di ba, raw eh.
Yeah.
Minsan, maraming kwela movements, so maraming mga yung bola, turnover, tanggal, sisipa yung bola. Pero hindi yun ang we have to embrace that Yun ang Pinoy ball, di ba?
Bakit gusto nung yung mga international analysts? Sabi niya yung Pinoy brand ng basketball, nakikita natin dun sa team ni Chot Reyes na yun. So, yun yung
Scrappy.
gusto kong makita.
Scrappy.
Hindi mo mabasa kung ano yung play.
That's Pinoy basketball, pare.
Pinoy basketball. Classic, no?
Scratch and claw.
Tapos naglaro tayo sa barangay lahat. Naglaro tayo lahat sa barangay. No? So pag tayo yung magkakalaban, let's say magkakapit-bahay tayong 5. Yung the usual na magkalaban, parang, sige, laro lang tayo papawis. Pero pag may dayo, na dumating na village yun, may dumayo, galing ibang grupo, ganyan.
Coke litro yan Coke litro yung
mga hindi, tsaka yung pusta dati, ice tubig, pop cola. Bayad ilaw. Bayad ilaw. Diba? Bayad ilaw. Iba yung gana
Oo, iba talaga.
Diba? Pag may iba kang kalaro. So, kinokonek ko lang ito sa sinasabi ni Lee. We can revert to retain the 3 conference format ng PBA. Pero yung 3rd conference, gawin nating iba. Para may inaabangan yung tao.
I think
they
kinda did that before, pero pa isa-isang team. And it wasn't consistent. So if we can kumbaga calendar the conferences in such a way na talagang nababakante yung ibang teams from our neighboring countries on a yearly basis, I think that would be good.
Yeah, you up the stakes also. You up the stakes also.
Absolutely.
Kasi, not all PBA teams from the prior conference will be invited. Kasi invitational nga.
Yeah, invitational.
So
to be included.
Finishers.
You mentioned the MPBL, Coach Lee. There's another league that didn't really last too long, pero ang ganda ng simula niya, yung NBA. Do you think we could ever go back to, do you think something like that would work? Maybe, let's say, the talk and text, tagig, whatever. Parang ganun. Do you think, you think that could work?
It could be. I think what happened to the NBA before, that was actually a breath of fresh air, no?
Yeah, saya
at the
nun.
time. Kasi ang pangit na the league was the PBA was starting to go down.
Yun na yung Fil-Shams period din.
Yun na yun And
was that 2002?
NBA came in
99. 2000. Yan. 98, 99.
NBA came in, no? It was a refreshing, and you would see all the stadiums would be filled, di ba?
Kasi may
home and away kasi.
I think ang nangyari lang talaga dun sa NBA, I think people got too impatient. I think the owners got too impatient and wanted to cash out so soon.
ROI agad.
ROI ka agad, no? Kung sana yung mga owners ng MPBL nandun nung time na yon, baka tumagal pa ng maraming seasons yun But
you think we can see the PBA make a shift to that type of format, or hindi na gagana yan?
Everybody would want to be the Manila team.
That's true.
Or the Quezon City or Makati team, because it's the heart of the metro.
I was gonna mention with my players who would join the league, the transition from college, whether it's NCAA or UAAP, for them it's tough because they're used to filled arenas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then, if they're not going against the top teams like Ginebra, San Miguel, TNT, all of a sudden, diba, it's tough. All of us na you're playing not even a half-filled arena. Na parang that's when they realize na shit, trabaho na talaga to. So, diba, it all goes back to parang nag-iingat na sila, iba na yung laro nila compared to how they were in college.
Good point.
So, sa akin, hopefully, another thing that maybe we could adapt moving forward is to play in smaller arenas. Kasi Araneta is a 20,000 capacity. MOA is 20 to 25. If you play in gymnasiums such as
San Juan,
San Juan, na mga 5,000, 7,500.
Pero puno.
And if you remember, back in the day, 80s, 90s, pagdating ng semis, there would be teams that they would bring their own band. May drums na yan. So, nakakamiss, diba? So, kung bumalik, kunwari, if the PBA would accept na, sige, let's play in smaller arenas. It might
Ba't di natin
be
dalhin
good
sa
for the league.
campuses, Pidge? Pwede rin, no?
Ay, pwede.
Hindi kasi maganda yung facility ng iba.
Yun lang.
Di ba ginawa ng NCAA?
Pero yun, diba?
Yeah.
Ginawa nila yun eh. Pero puro monoblock lang yun sa sideline. Walang upuan. Tapos nakatayo na lahat.
So I guess last few questions. From a marketing standpoint, so we talked about logistics, less games, smaller arenas. But from a marketing standpoint, what can the marketing team do? Maybe just to present the product differently. Is there any insight you guys can give?
What if lang? Because I was telling the boys as well. You know, to come up with one designer for all the uniforms.
Yeah.
I mean, you still retain the corporate logo. Of course, it has to be there.
Yeah.
Or each team can have 3 or 4 sets that the fans will choose from.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
Diba?
May fan involvement.
May fan involvement na talagang it doesn't have to be a top designer, diba? Pero somebody who's creative that can come up with 4 sets, including the company logo integrated in the uniform. Then the fans vote.
Ganda rin nun.
Diba? Pwede yun.
That would work too.
Or the league ties up kasi either with a brand or with a local designer, no? Na give that designer, let's say, a 1-year contract na siya ang bahala doon sa design.
Yung parang sa NBA din, di ba?
Kasi honestly, di ba? Pangit ng uniforms. It's too busy, di ba? Ang gulo.
Dami nangyayari.
Wala pa, tapal na very literal yung pag-design. Very literal. No? Pag
sinabing tayo kay Com nito.
Oo.
Hindi. We love the PBA.
Maban na yung Buhaybasket sa
we want to revive it eh. I think the
we love the league.
No, commissioner will have to get Buhaybasket as a consultant.
Ay, pwede. So I guess, guys, closing thoughts. We all support the league. We all still love the league. We all still love the players. Obviously, things are going to be very different after this lockdown. So, Coach Lee, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. No, there's going to be a new normal in place after. No, so if there's a perfect time to institute changes, it's now, diba? At least everyone is looking for something. So parang you wanna leverage on that momentum. But as a league, no, I would stick to my roots, to my identity, and not we're too Western in that sense. We're too NBA-ish. The coverage is too NBA. All the segments OA. Na parang people, Filipino basketball fans are not stupid. They know. That's different, no? And kaya nga mag-NBA na lang ako, 'di ba? Kung ganoon lang, if you can't deliver that level, 'di ba? So stick to the roots, no? And you wanna take advantage of yung mga Pinoy traits, no? Characteristic, like what Coach was saying, scrappy, di ba?
Yes.
Ay pagpalitan ng mukha. Yung mga terms na yan sa liga yan eh.
Ligang labas.
So, yun ang gusto mong
asawahin mo.
Yun ang gusto mong mangyari. Asawahin mo yan.
Tutuwas Coach
flavor.
Yan.
And I think if and with all those mga suggestions kanina, I mean, it doesn't have to happen all together at the same time. It be in phases, but I just feel that if the PBA doesn't do something very different soon, and it will just open its doors as just like para na walang lockdown, sayang, no?
For me, definitely, we all agree that the league has to evolve, no doubt about it. I think even the board of governors know about it. There has to be new blood injected, right? And that has to happen now because, like what we talked about, diba? 40, 50 year the ECQ. So no excuses, man. If to what Coach Lee mentioned, diba, if they open their doors and it's business as usual, nothing changes. Parang
Sayang
you already
lang
missed that opportunity. Now, good thing you brought up the marketing aspect. And for me, like opening up doors by having players sign their give autograph to fans. That's not the way to connect with fans. It's really like what you mentioned from a marketing standpoint. Having the fans have a say with the jerseys, and then having one provider, having one merchandise provider for jerseys, like how it's being done overseas with other leagues. That there would be authenticity. Because as a fan, when you're buying a jersey, uy, ito talaga authentic PBA. Together with is the essential gear that you need. So headband, armbands, sleeves, now with the PBA logo and with another brand that they're partnering with. For
Legit
me,
lahat.
that would have magkakaroon ng new blood ng PBA.
Love that word, authentic. Kaya may lack of authenticity nga rin. Coach Boogie, what about you, sir?
Yep. Boogie na lang, sir. Actually, sir, I'm more, Enzo, I'm more than a fan than a basketball coach. It's not that I became a basketball coach because I was first a basketball fan. Well, up to now, no. So I never left the PBA. So, kumbaga sa relationship, loyal tayo. I never left the PBA. I'm all for it. Yung 2 conference format or 3, yung tweak natin. Pero I'm also thinking of the gilas. So more time to prepare, more time for the players to yung off season mas mahaba, mas makakapag-recuperate sila ng injuries, and also more time to prepare again. So actually, luckily for us, it's being supported by SBP, my boss. So I work for one of the companies of the
Okay.
So ayun. So I'm all for it. 2 conference format, tapos yung one-on-one singitan natin in between conferences and nilagyan natin ng bearing. And also gusto kong yung kasi again, PBA fan talaga ako, no? So hindi ako nawala. Pero gusto ko pagkausap ko to si JN at si Lee, si PJ, PBA pinag-uusap. Panay NBA itong tatlo Enzo. So, hindi naman. Mas
madami lang
yung PBA.
Pero mas masayang pag-usapan yung sarili natin. Sa totoo lang. So,
lapit sa
kailangan nating buhayin ulit yun.
Kailangan.
Yeah.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm feeling ko parang 2 hours pa to kung kaya pa natin.
Madami to pero
dami pa to.
Pag-usapan
so, we can come up with some new topics for the next PBA episode. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you very much, Enzo.
Great insight. I learned a lot again. So we'll have another episode soon.